Hello, friends. I wanted to reach out and do our stream today. But today's stream's a little different because I want to go a little bit more into my history of Toronto and the storytelling therein, why I came here, where I was before, what's going on. I hope you are up for a little bit more storytelling today. And if there's any questions you guys have, please let me know. It will, of course, at some point devolve into random usage. And we'll get into lots of questions and talking to people in the chat. But for now, let's go have some fun, do a little talking. I want to say if you are new to the channel, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. But I would have moved to Toronto about 2011, and I was actually born in Toronto, so I was here initially until I was about 6 years old. And that's when my parents decided to move to North Bay to start a church. Hello, Eddie. Welcome. Good to see you. Just going over the story of where I was and what Toronto was and where we're going and all that good stuff. So should be an interesting one today. At the very least, very introspective. So feel free to follow along in the chat along, whatever you guys want to do. But I'm currently over in the village. This is currently where I live. I've lived here for the better part of about 3 years now when I moved out of my ex's place. But yeah, village obviously means a great deal to me. It was one of the first areas I lived in. When I first moved to Toronto, I actually moved to St. Jamestown, which is just on the outskirts of the village. And I worked in the village. That's where my first jobs were here. We'll go by where Timothy's was, where Second Cup is still to this day. And be able to go over a bunch of the stories that happened there. But yeah, when I first moved here, it would have been about 2011. And I was here for a good... I have been here since then, but off and on in the village. I moved around a lot, especially when I was with my ex-partner. But I do want to take us to the first stop, which would be where I first moved to when I moved to Toronto. That's over in St. Jamestown. It's at 666 Ontario. My parents have started a church. You can imagine how thrilled they were that I was living in a place called 666. But just a number, didn't mean anything. The area itself was interesting, but if you are new here, welcome. And if you're not new here, welcome back. It's always good to be had. Also, it's nice that the snow's all gone, so I can actually wear my easy, comfortable walking shoes. As the other ones tend to give me a little bit of a blister. Not that that's here or there, but the things you do for your art, the sacrifices you make. Can I catch this one? Probably. We'll say if you look over to the left, you will see the Keg Mansion. One of the most haunted places in Toronto, allegedly, of course. Because ghosts aren't really real, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But yeah, I did interview for a job there when I first moved to Toronto. I know about the first year. Got an interview, never heard back from them. So I guess I just wasn't host material. Hello, user. Good to have you, my friend. We're currently on our way over to explore one of the first areas I ever lived in when I was in the city. But yeah, for most of my life, I lived in North Bay. Well, up until that point, I should say. I guess at this point, I have lived the majority of my life in Toronto, which is nice. But my name is Apple Tart Baker. Well, lovely to have you, Apple Tart Baker. I do love me some apple tarts, so you'll fit right in. We do love talking about food on this channel, often to an absurd degree. So, I'm in Whitby, Canada. Oh, Whitby's lovely. One of my best friends used to work in Whitby, despite living with me at my place in St. Jamestown. So, yeah. Well, this isn't any good. I'm gonna have to cross. Just gonna have to wait until these cars go by. Timmy, welcome, welcome. Great to see you today. Hope you're having a good one. On the way home from meeting in a valley. Oh, that sounds delightful. Literally walking by a jackhammer. That's always pleasant. I figured today I can make it a little looser, go over more of my history in the city. I love Bond Street, that Mackenzie house, very nice. I think I know the one you're talking about. And if it is, then yes, it very much is. Lovely space to go and enjoy. Hunter Muse. Here's Gone Forever stuff. I don't know what Nightbot just did there, but okay. I used to bake in that Mackenzie homestead for visitors. Oh, cool. Yeah, I don't think I've ever been on the inside of it, but heard good things. I will point out in front of us, this is the the Wellesley and Sherburne Community Center. When I lived in this area, I actually never went to this community center. I don't even know if it existed at the time, but yeah, I went in there every so often. They'll have a day for swimming, and we'll go in, and it'll be a lovely, beautiful day. Yeah, they have an open swim every now and then. It's fun to go with a group of friends where you can just kind of be like, oh, it's the middle of winter. Let's go for a swim in a pool. And the pool's lovely. Get to hang out with friends and be social for an hour. It's great. Highly recommend. You are my chocolate friend. And, we are getting some interesting chats today, aren't we? Let's see where those develop to. Once I'm going right up to Ontario Street where I lived, I'm going to shoot over to Ontario and Wellesley, go over a fun story that happened there. Then I'll shoot up, go over to 666 Ontario, and go from there. Also, hello, Vasily. Good to see you, my friend. Why is Nightbot deleting that message? I don't know what's going on there. I think it doesn't like having a lot of emotes in the chat. Maybe it's a bot flag? Nightbot is interesting, but we'll see exactly how valuable it is soon. Also, he timed the person out. Is the world chocolate? Is it the world chocolate? Couldn't tell you one way or the other. Oh, some filming going on there. Check all the settings for Nightbot. Yeah, sadly can't do that while I'm streaming because, that's my phone, but we'll definitely check it out. Been curious at times. I wonder if that's why Eddie deleted it, but we'll find out. We'll see what happens there. I reduced the timeout. Okay. I will say, I never actually went, but if you get just to I've always loved this mural. I think it's really well done. It's just simple, cute, very nice. Also, when my dog passed, I was living in Toronto. I remember I'd walk by this every day and see it and be like, "Oh, it looks like her." So, once again, the Nightbot's will. That's how the robots uprise and then come to get us. Doo-wop music guy, welcome. So I'm currently beside a Food Basics, and all right, nice snow stream. Fair enough. So I will say, this Food Basics behind me, what happened was when I first moved here, I remember I had just been here for a couple months at that point. And I remember I came in here one day after I'd found a place Ontario Street, and my friend, I remember I was walking through a space, and as I was leaving the grocery store, all I heard was Matt, Matt, and I was just like, oh, that's curious. I go by Maddie now, so it must be someone who knew me from like before. So I turned around, and there's my friend Libby, and she's down here. She had just moved down from Toronto, from North Bay as well, literally living in the building beside me, and so we ended up hanging out for, like a lot that summer, having a great time, getting to see each other. So yeah, it was really nice. It was just so funny to be here and be like, oh, walking through, and then at the end when I was just like, oh, I'm clearly never going to come back to this grocery store, I'm just hearing Matt, Matt, and just like, oh my god, that's so funny. But yeah, this is where it happened. This Food Basics right here. It's still here. I just been to it recently, and it was awful. I think it's safe to say it's very overpriced, and definitely like to the point where I was kind of concerned. I'm just like, why is a discount grocery store charging as much as Loblaws? So yeah, couldn't really say one way or the other. There's clearly no snow. Yeah, definitely no snow anymore. All of it has been melted at this point. But we got some good ones going. So let's see where we go from here. I remember when I first moved down here, I was actually warned, just like, do not move to St. Jamestown. Do not move to St. Jamestown. And then when me and someone we connected with down in Toronto, she was just like, hey, let's look for a place together. And I'm just like, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. We're going in with the intention of being roommates. We did. We found a great place. It turns out it was right in the middle of St. Jamestown. So a lot of North Bay people in Toronto. I saw you found out the King Continuity was also from North Bay. Yeah, I remember just randomly tuning into his thing. And like, I've tuned in before, but he was just at the train station. He was like, oh, look, North Bay, that's where I'm from. And I was just like, what? Had this whole moment of being like, are you kidding me? How are you also from North Bay? But yeah, really funny. Just be like, oh yeah, that's super random, but also super cool. Yeah, as soon as I realized that, as soon as I found out, I was just like, okay, that is most excellent. All right, this is it. So when I first moved to Toronto, me and my roommate at the time decided to look for a place together, and this was the place we found. It was on the second floor. It was on the other side, so it was facing the parking lot. But lovely little space, actually. We only had cockroaches once, so that's pretty good for the area and pretty good for Toronto. But yeah, it was just kind of a nice, certainly a nice, comfortable place to start my Toronto journey. But what was great about it is that I only lived on the second floor, so I would just kind of go in the side door and just hop up the stairs. So I never used the front door, never used the elevator. But yeah, just kind of got to come in and explore and enjoy. A North Bay collab in Toronto with Ken would be cool. Oh, I'd love that. I've reached out. We'll see what happens. I'm going to see if I can actually scoot around the side, because this was literally the way I would actually come in every day. Yeah, nothing stopping me. North Bay or Toronto, Madame? Both. We'll have a... But yeah, I'd literally come in here and then shoot in this door right here. And then when I'd come in the back, that space right there, that was mine. So, on the second floor, it was great. You had this little opening at the back. Didn't have any dogs at the time, but if I did, you could just come here. When did you move to Toronto? I actually moved in Toronto in 2000 and then we'll kind of go, oh, look, squirrel. Bounce, bounce, bounce. But yeah, this was it. This was my first home. I remember for the first year or so while I was here, my friend would come by, and my friend Wes decided to move to Toronto at this time because he was working for an outreach. So he would do church for essentially he would help run a church for like queer youth, kind of struggling with their sexuality and religion at the same time. And quite a lovely, quite a good intentioned and lovely ministry. But he didn't have a place to stay, so he came and he actually literally just lived with me as another roommate. And he just stayed on the couch in the living room, and he stayed there for like 2 or 3 months. And he's a lovely human who I miss very much. But then we actually moved with him and my friend Sarah. We moved out to a place on Lansdowne, which I went by a couple of weeks ago. I might try to do like another updated story of Toronto if this goes well. But yeah, we end up over there, and it was a great experience. Like, still love them dearly. Still get to talk to them sometimes. We actually still have a standing meeting when we remember, where once every month we have a Wednesday that we're all just like, okay, this is the day we're going to connect and we're going to talk. And I think we've managed to do it like 2 or 3 times since we set it up. But it's still nice. Like, we're all still very much trying to keep tabs on each other. And she's often married to her wife, and they have 2 beautiful kids together. And he's off back in Spokane, I think he's back in. But yeah, we still have this little place in Toronto that unifies us together. She was also another friend from North Bay who actually knew Libby, who was the one who interrupted, who caught my attention back at Freshco. So, yeah. I'm curious to know who else would be from North Bay. But well, actually, knowing that he went to Chippewa, I'm just like, okay, who do you know that I know? I'm just like, which of our friends are the crossovers? Which are the ones that you would have remembered? Which are the ones you still keep in touch with? Because after a certain point, like, you just don't keep in touch with your hometown people anymore. And it's kind of like, it can be shocking how fast it happens. Where one day, you're literally just connected, like you're all still super close friends. And then one day it's just like, there's just too much space between, and there's too much distance, and you've changed too much, and you become your own people all over again. So the person you are when you walk out of high school is not the person you are when you walk into your 30s. And if you can keep those people around you, that's amazing. But not everyone can. And that's also okay. Man, growing up is weird. Just to show y'all some alternative views of St. Jamestown. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're old buildings, and it's all very low income, high residential. So you're going to get a lot of types. But what used to happen is I used to come out of the subway at Glen Street, and then I used to literally cut over here and then cut through this parking lot. Stuck in traffic. Oh no. There's nothing worse than being stuck in traffic. Except maybe like the things that are worse than being stuck in traffic. But there's nothing worse than that. It's definitely an interesting area because you end up with all of these buildings that are all fairly identical, but all distinct enough that kind of makes them unique. But if you go down there, that takes you directly to Ontario Street. So that's where I would go in. Just tap on and then go up the stairs and then head right on into where I need to go. But if you go this way and we go down, we can catch the Halifax. We can go over to a couple places where I used to work and potentially do the village as well. So lots of little things to show. But if you have any questions or things you want to see as well, just let me know. Always happy to share what I can. Well, one other thing about my experience when I lived in Ontario Street. So when I lived in this building, uh, this was also where I started my body painting project. So this was the area where I took my roommate, Wes, and I said to him, "Can I paint you as a part of my project?" Because I just quit my job at Second Cup because I was being bullied by one person in particular. And I really wanted to find a way that I could remember my friends as a part of, like when I come to Toronto, I'd really felt an envelopment of friendship and people who understood me. Greetings from New Mexico. Welcome. Good to have you, Empire Son. Just going over some random stories of my experiences in Toronto. And this was the building where I would literally reach out to people and I was just like, "Hey, can I paint you?" And this is where my painting project started. So that's where started to learn how to do body painting. It's where I learned how to become a body painter. At the time, I will admit, I was using acrylic paints. And if there's one piece of advice I can give you for anyone who wants to get into body painting, don't use acrylic paints. It's really bad. It's really, really bad. There's actually no upside to it other than the fact that the paint is cheaper and you get really vibrant colors, which is nice. But also, it's the amount of pain you put people through when you do it is not, it's not okay. It's not great. But yeah. Well, this was the building. This is where I started to learn how to become a body painter. And yeah, it was a wonderful experience. I still do some body painting. I would like to do more, but it's much like becoming a walktuber. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of steps. And I mean, we'll see. If there's ever a way that I can kind of make that happen more in the future, I will definitely do so. But in the meantime, I'm going to actually take a little detour. And we're going to go over to a couple different areas and share what we can. The church. Okay, so this church in front of us. This is, I believe, a Catholic church. I can't remember exactly what it is off the top of my head. But when I was just freshly to Toronto, there was a week where my ex wanted to come down to Toronto to visit, and we were on fairly good terms at that point. So I said, "Sure, why don't you come down?" And he did. He stayed with me for it was either a week or a weekend, but we had gone to the bar, we'd had a couple drinks, and then afterwards we were, stumbling home as you do. And I remember I was just like, "Oh, we'll get home." And he was just like, "I really need to pee." I was just like, "Well, we can get home and you can just go there." And he's just like, "No, no, no, I have to pee now." And he just went by the church and there's a statue of Mary there. And I was just like, "What are you doing?" He's just like, "Just don't look." And he just relieved himself on the statue. And I was just like, "Oh, well, that's something." But that church will always remind me of that experience. Just being young and silly and dumb. But I was certainly many of those things at the time. Now I'm just dumb. I'm kidding. I'm just silly. Yeah. This area will always be what St. Jamestown reminds me of most. Those times, fresh to Toronto, learning how the city worked, learning how to be by yourself and be your own person. It's what? It's overwhelming, it's intimidating, but it's also a lot of fun and it's adventurous. And I like to think I've never quite lost that adventurous spirit, but at the same time, there are a few things I like more than just staying at home, having a pizza, and cuddling on the bed. So, it's simple. You learn to appreciate the things that make it special. All right. Hitting the button. Perfect. All right. For those who are following the story, this is the statue. I don't think I've ever officially apologized to it, but maybe I should. So yeah, there you go. That is what I will always think of when I see the statue. It is unfortunate, but at the same time, kind of hilarious. I remember there's also a friend, and every Tuesday night he would run a game night. And on the game nights, because I just lived here, I would just walk down the street, and he would be right at the end of the street. Uh, Really beautiful building, really beautiful condo. But you would walk in, and he had just walls and walls of board games, of like every type, super in depth, super complex. Just board games you've never heard of, board games you never would have thought of. Just of an era where it's just overwhelming the amount of like the amount of items he had. I couldn't imagine spending that much on board games these days because I'm just like, board games have gotten so expensive. But then again, so is everything else. So what do you do? But the thing that's nice about board games is it encourages you to be social. You play them many times, hopefully. They're not something that just stays with you forever. So we'll see where. I'm sure he still collects stuff, but he was also a brilliant musical director. So we would also have like posters of the Broadway shows he saw. So really interesting space. Really love space. We dated like briefly for a season, but I think that was when I started dating the alcoholic person who worked at KMH. And as such, me and him never really talked about that era or that time, nor do I think we ever will. I saw him actually yesterday, and for the first time in years, I'd just been like, hello, and just trying to not necessarily build a bridge, but be like, I acknowledge you exist. So cool. But yeah, he was someone I thought it was fairly close to for a while, even after we dated. But never really acknowledged or went over what happened or what he did. So we'll be walking by his place, so I'm happy to show off what happened. That being said, this is also just a beautiful street. The fact that we actually got so much snow and cold, and a lot of these trees are still holding on pretty nicely, so good for them. I've always found this unusual though too. They literally have this little section in the middle of the street that blocks the street off from anything except for bicycles and pedestrians. But you can still come in on either side. You just can't drive through, which I'm sure they did for traffic. But I'm 90% sure is that it was probably because this area was like a dignitary area, I'm pretty sure, or an area of affluence. And they didn't want people just driving through their street. So literally one of the only places I know that put up blocks on all sides that you cannot drive through at all. So if you are in this area, you will be stopped by the blocks. But when you just kind of look at the illustriousness of the townhouses nearby, you're just like, oh, that tracks a lot. A lot of the trees in the area still have a lot of leaves on them. This, of course, is an oak tree, as you can tell from the leaf patterns. I've always thought oak trees had the most interesting leaf variations. The fact that they're so, just to kind of give a sense of them, like they're actually so wide and they're so big compared to a lot of other ones. I just find them very, if I was a tree, I'd want to be an oak tree. I just find they have a lot of character to them. It's a good question. If you were a tree, what tree would you be? I'd say oak or birch. Those are the ones I would opt for. I got some interesting art over here. That's an interesting house there too. I almost wonder if this was a garage and then they either separated out into their own house Or if it is just the same house. And it could be, but that would be like a massive house. Which a lot of these properties were back in the day. So, hard to say. Was he so I couldn't type? Matti is live, there you are. Good to see you, Yoshi. Always a pleasure to have you on. Oh, Jazz is here too. Welcome, Jazz. Thanks for stopping by today. Aw, the gang's all here. All we need is Juanita to pop in. Oh, thanks for stopping by today, guys. It's good to see you. So this is the building. This is the building where that man was that I briefly dated with the board game wall, who I'd now made vocal contact with, but like do not expect to hear from ever again. Until I see them next week for trivia and I'm forced to interact with them again. But that's not likely to happen. That just could happen. So, say here, the 19th, are we going to have another lunchtime meeting? Sure, we could. Let me know. Let me know what you folks want to do with that. We'll go. Yeah, that is where they lived. Maybe still do, but who knows? We'll say brilliant musical director. So I hope they're still well. Oh, there's Juanita. There she is. Welcome. Oh, this isn't, they're putting a new pollinator garden here. Oh, I didn't know that they had one so close. Randy's really big on these, which I really like. Not Mandarin, the lunch prices still. I think I have a good idea for a place. I'll talk to you about it after, but you hit me. I'll send you a text later so we can talk about it then. But I think I have a good idea for a place, so we'll go with that. I do want to come down here. So I did work on Church Street. I've worked on Church Street a couple times. And one of them was, you see this sign that says out on the street? So out on the street, I worked at about a year and a half ago. And it's a really nice clothing store. They have some good stuff. Oh, this here is Cafe Our Hours. I always like to point it out because my boy Steven there does excellent coffee. And I absolutely think he is fantastic. So if you ever get a chance to check out Cafe Our Hours, definitely check it out. But this is out on the street. Out on the street was a place where I worked. And this was when I was running my clothing company as well. So while I was there, I ended up having an experience where I could literally sell my clothing with them. Did I miss the story? It's ongoing. It's mostly just a bunch of stories strung together with a loose narrative. But here, what I did, this is actually where Randy still works, by the way. So if you get a chance to see him, say hello. But I will say, what we did there was I would literally come into work. I would work in the basement the entire time. And I would control the music for the store. And that was what I did. And just sold people sex toys. So, yeah, it's hard to make me blush these days. I know way too much about a lot of people. But, yeah, that was one of my jobs in Toronto. My first job that I got in Toronto was I actually got a job at a place called... Well, I had interviewed for a couple places. I interviewed for the Stag Shop here. I interviewed for a couple others. But my first job I got down here was at a coffee shop called Timothy's. Now, I don't... Your signal always goes wonky by the park. Coincidence. Huh. Possibly, actually. But probably not. Maybe they're just like, you don't want to be here. You shouldn't be here. Don't be here. Go somewhere else. Can't imagine why. But, you know. Yeah. Hello, Carell. Welcome. We're just doing a couple walk into like exploring the history of Church Street. But yeah, Timothy's was located down here. And I worked there for about 6 months. I met one of my good friends, Sarah, there, who we still keep in touch with here and there. But yeah, there was about 5 of us who worked. Actually, Nick, who popped on the chat a couple times, he was also from there. But during that time I was there, there was big talk on Church Street about them reopening Second Cup. And if you look across the street, this is the Second Cup that they were reopening. And what I got to do is uh, when Second Cup opened, they actually came down to Timothy's and they poached about 5 of us. So there was 5 of us who were all working at Timothy's, who then they sniped and were just like, "Come, choose your own hours. You can work for us instead." And do all, and we're all just like, "Well, yeah, obviously we're gonna move for the new hotness." And our tips went from like $10 a day to like $30 a day, which back in 2010 was pretty good. It's a coffee shop. You don't go there for the tips, but yeah, I will say we probably got more tips there then than they would now because the tips go to the people and then they pool them all. So I wouldn't recommend that, but yeah, I hope coffee tipping culture is still okay. But the space here used to be a place called Zelda's, and Zelda's was one of the first drag bars I ever visited. And I remember I actually moved to Toronto for the summer of 2008. So when I came here in 2011, I wasn't entirely a newbie, but I was very much a newbie. Like, very much didn't have a lot of experience or time or ability to do things. So, poached them's fighting words. I didn't have a lot of time to do things, but yeah, that was one of the places I would come to. There's my friends Momo and other people I don't get to see very often. And yeah, that was our hangout spot. We went to Zelda's. One day I competed in the best ass contest and did not win, which, they probably made the right choice. But I will say behind us there's a place called The Well. And The Well used to be a place called Statler's, like Alf of Walder and Statler's, like the Muppets. And what happened is that it used to be a musical, like it used to be a piano bar. But what they did there is every Monday night they would have a musical theater open mic night. And I would come there every Monday to perform. And I wish we could have something with that spirit again. Something that's just live, musical, fun enjoyment. So maybe one day it'll come back. But for now, we wait and we see and we go for what happens next. Now, I do want to point out, this is Cruise and Tangos. Cruise and Tangos, when I first moved to Toronto, absolutely the bar we would go to. In 2008, this was the bar we would go to. In 2011, this was where we would come to dance. This was so much fun. We had a great time. And it really is baby's first gay bar. And it serves a really good purpose in terms of like younger queer people coming to the city. This is where you go. And the reason why this is where you go, you are able to go there if you're older, but like it's louder, it's messier, it's more fun, it's silly. But yeah, it was just a really great experience and just a lovely little space to go. But do we kind of miss it? Absolutely. But at the same time, a really nice place that we got to enjoy for a long time. I didn't mean for this to be a deep dive into the village, but I'm just like, a lot of my story takes place here, so it just kind of fits. So over here, where you see All Pets, All Pets is a new pet store that's there. It used to be across the street in Del Hall, but this used to be a clothing store called Grapefruit. And Grapefruit only existed for a short while, but when I had my clothing line, I actually brought in a bunch of stuff to be sold there, and they would sell my clothes, and I'd obviously get the commission, and it worked really well for a while, for a period of time. But then they shut down, I got my clothes back finally. But it was one of those situations where there was one season where I started doing my glitter bombs project, and that was where I would paint myself every day I raised $100. It was a fundraiser that I did in January 2 years ago to start to fund my fringe show. And I did it again last year to try to fund my fringe show. And I'm probably going to do it again to try to fund my fringe show. But yeah, I don't know where I'll end up this year. It all depends on which fringe festivals pick me out of a hat. But hopefully, at least some of them do. And we can go from there. All these little pet stores are popping up. Yeah, there's quite a few of them now. It's kind of nice to see like boutique pet stores. Just like, do you like your pet to be bougier than you are? Try this instead. Across the street is Glad Day Bookshop, or at least where it was. Glad Day Bookshop used to be over on Yonge Street. And when I was there, I actually resonated with them really well. I had a lot of fun. I did a book launch there when I did my Human Campus project book launch for the first time. And when they moved over here, I just found that they kind of lost something. They tried to become an everything place, like an everything for everyone. I just find when you do that, you're not really able to encapsulate your full identity anymore. And I just kind of had, once they did that, I just kind of lost, not a little respect for them, but just a little bit of, it just wasn't the same anymore. I still appreciate their mandates. And I hear that now they've kind of leaned back more into books, which I'm just like, good. They're not located here anymore. They've moved across the city, but hopefully they still have a good handle on their books. And hopefully they can continue to thrive and grow in the future. I mean, I don't want to wish negative on any business, but my experiences at that particular place when they were there, they were very negative. And hopefully now I can rebuild and do something else with them, more with them, different with them. And we go from there. So well, when I did move to Toronto for the first time, this building over here, the one with the trees, the tree structure in front, I did date someone in there who could not make up their mind as to whether or not they wanted to date me or not. But yeah, like we would go out and then we would chat and have coffee, and then I would go home, and then we would go out and we would chat, and then I would go home. And he was always just like, oh yeah, I want to date you so bad. And then just never did. So, yeah, not sure what happened to him actually. Hope he's okay. Sweet enough guy. So this place up here, the one with the fox on it, used to be Fox and Fiddle. I think it was something else before then. But in 2008, when I first moved here, me and my friend Momo would come here all the time because there was a karaoke bar here. It was a karaoke bar. And I would come and get a cider, and we would sing karaoke for hours. And it was just such a fun environment. Total dive bar. And just like, you need those in your life, especially when you're young and dumb. But like, total dive bar. But a lot of fun. So like, we sang so many songs there. Our song we would sing together every week was Hero, which was not Nickelback, but like the Nickelback lead singer Chad Kroeger, the one that he sang with that other guy, the one from the Spider-Man soundtrack. Is it a terrible song? Yes. Did we kill it every week? Yes. And it was, you miss those days, right? Never really understood the Fox and Bar franchises. Fair enough. I'm just like, I don't think it was called Fox and Fiddle back then. I think it was something like Fiddler's Green or something like that. But it was just such a good experience. If you do have like a classic karaoke song that you absolutely love, let me know. I'd be very curious to know what some of the ones you have, some of the ones that you enjoy. So. Yeah, me and Momo were good friends for years, and then leading up to the marriage that I had to my ex, we kind of like, I would reach out and I wouldn't get a response. I ran into him one day, and I think he was actually hosting karaoke somewhere, and I came in and I was just like, oh my God, I miss you. I hope you're well. And he was just like, yeah, cool. I never heard from him again until a couple months later, like maybe even a year later. I get a random message from him being like, can you tell your ex that the cat that he had, like his cat that I've been raising for the past 8 years, can you tell him the cat died? I'm just like, no, it wasn't even him. It was his roommate. His roommate reached out to me to ask me to tell my ex that my ex's cat had died. And I was just like, just what? Do it yourself. Talk to me. What's going on? But, my inner Simon Cowell comes out when I go to karaoke. Hero Chad Kroeger featuring Josie Scott. Yes. Thank you. I didn't know the name of the other guy. I don't even know what band he's in, but I trust he was in something. Michael Bublé, Christmas is the karaoke. I feel like Michael Bublé Christmas is always a good karaoke one. If you look over on the left over here, you'll see a little narrow sign for Glad Day Bookshop. I feel like they have this habit of putting up their signs on buildings and then never taking them down, because like they haven't been in that space for like at least 10 years. And as soon as they would essentially move out, like they really should have taken the sign down, but they never did. So now they have the sign here and the sign over on Church Street. So some eagle-eyed observation person is going to be like, "Oh yeah, Glad Day Bookshop and Glad Day Bookshop. This place must be a franchise." But really, no, it's just they haven't put their signs up. But yeah, when I did my book launch, we did it over there on the top floor, and it was a great experience. Had a lot of fun, and yeah, the book launch was very successful. I remember for a good couple months there, my friend Scott used to work there, and I would actually come by and be like, "Hey, do you want me to get you anything while you're here?" And he's just like, "Yeah, sure." So I would like run and I'd be like, "Ooh, do you want a burrito?" And I would run down and get us both a burrito and then come back and we'd hang out for like a couple hours. It was great. Really love the place. I will say, no matter where they were, they never hired me, despite the fact that I applied multiple times. Yeah, just saying. Not better. Just saying. Okay, maybe a little bitter. That's fine. We're all entitled to a little bitterness sometimes. Burritos. Where did you go for burritos? There was a place down here, and it was called like Burrito Palace or Burrito Hut. It was something very like very silly, but that's where we would go for burritos. But if you look at that place over there, the one that's the blue sign, that used to be a sushi place called Sushi Garden, and me and my friend Sarah would go there all the time. We would have, well, they would have just incredible sushi deals, and we would just sit there and have sushi for hours. I actually have a lot of stories about like sushi places on Church Street that things happened at, and if we go down here about 2 blocks, there's a very special one because, as I said before, growing up, my parents were pastors of a church. So they were pastors of a charismatic church that was very non-affirming. So they weren't no, like being gay wasn't an option in their world. So they would actually like actively discourage me from it, and uh, that guy just threw a coffee at someone. That's not cool. I wish I wasn't streaming because then that would be much easier to actually help the person. But if we come over here, a lot of this. Do you remember Benny Hinn? He was living in Toronto at one point. Oh, interesting. Well, we're going to a place out here. The store's not here obviously anymore because it's been many years. But down here, there used to be a sushi place that had like a nice blue sign on it. And I remember this was the place where I took my mother out for sushi, obviously one day when she was visiting down from North Bay. Because at this time, they did still live in North Bay. And I just remember sitting her down and looking her in the eyes and finally being like, "Mom, I'm gay. I know you've known for a long time. I know that this is something that you understand that I've lived with for a long time, and I've tried to change, and I've realized that I can't. And I just want you to know that this is who I am." And she said, "I know, I understand, I love you." And she got there-ish. I don't know if my dad ever fully has. I don't know if he ever fully will. But yeah, that was where it was. Just somewhere right down there. One of those buildings. It's a lovely sushi spot on Yonge Street that doesn't exist anymore. But that memory always will. It was kind of one of the first points where I could just be like bluntly, "Hey, I am this way. I'm not going to change. I don't think I can change. And at this point, I am done trying." So at that point, I had done like read all the books. I had done conversion therapy, which I don't recommend for anyone because it's kind of a lot of bullshit. So, if you have anyone who's questioning or concerned about that, tell them to talk to me because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. That's for darn sure. That must have felt good and freeing. It was hard. And like, I'll say at the time, it didn't feel good and it didn't feel freeing. But in the long terms, it did plant the seeds that allowed me to be who I am today. And pulling back the threads on like your sexuality in your life and like finding out who you are, it's hard, but it's necessary. And at some point, whether you want to or not, we all must do it. So that is what we do. That is who we are. And my whole thought is just like, at some point you have to realize there's nothing wrong with who you are. You just have to try to be authentic in it and not hate yourself for things you can't help. So yeah, it was a good experience. I am happy I did it. But I mean, I lived in the village. Come on. She must have known. She absolutely knew. She knew for years. I remember at one point she was dropping me off it was for a musical theater practice in high school. So, clue enough right there. But she had a breakdown where she was dropping me off and being like, do you think we don't know? Do you think? And just, God, I felt such shame and I felt it wasn't good. And like, that's one of the moments that stays with me. But I do want to point out Buddies in Bad Times because Buddies in Bad Times is a theater. It's absolutely Canada's oldest queer theater, but also just a great place to go. But what they used to do is every weekend, they would have a dance party. So every Saturday you'd come here and you could come in and dance for hours. And it was so much fun. And it was safe. It was lovely. It was beautiful. And my friend Scott, who I actually would go get the burritos for, he worked the door. So whenever I would come here, him and his associate Chris would work the door as well. Him and Chris would just kind of spot me, like, as I peeked around the corner. I'd be like, come on in. I'd be like, yay. So I came to Buddies in Bad Times. I don't think I paid cover once. I think I paid for coat check a couple times, but I don't think I paid for cover a single time I was there. It helps to have friends in high places. What is the building that looks Bavarian? A Bavarian-looking building? Oh, that one. I believe that's actually a Bavarian place. Although it looks like it's going to be a Turkish cuisine place. So, my new Hugh, one of them is gay. Oh, your nephew, one of them is gay. I also have a cousin who is lesbian. Both are loved unconditionally. Not everyone in society out there does. That's life. It is life, but here's the thing, is that you just have to be louder than the voices that are trying to shut you up. So, that's all you can do. Because the other thing is just like, there is nothing louder than the voice inside your head. And if the voice inside your head is telling you that you're wrong, then it's really hard to ignore that because you don't believe it. But over time you will. And that's where, it's hard and it's good, but therapy's great. Therapy's better, I'd say. Some of my best relationships have been with therapists. So all kinds of good options there. Your voice matters, truthfully. I'm glad. I think everyone's, like, once you realize that your voice is power and that, here's the thing, the words you say stick. And like, you can say something so innocuous right now, but that'll stay with you forever. Like, I remember, like, for example, whenever I get lettuce or salad, I always store it with a paper towel because I know that paper towel will absorb extra moisture because someone years ago was just like, if you do this, that absorbs extra moisture and that'll help keep everything fresh for longer. And now I'm just like, because someone said that once randomly, it has stuck with me forever. Same as like in college, I remember one of the stupidest things that I ever heard was someone was just like, always throw an apple in your bag because that way, if you're hungry, you know you have an apple in your bag. And I was just like, that's the stupidest advice I've ever heard. But I still do it to this day. There is a 90% chance that I will be walking around with an apple in my bag because I know if I get hungry, I have an apple in my bag. So that's, I mean, I feel like that's more of a take of life than anything. The things that sound innocuous and silly can often be the biggest things that matter. So who knows? Like, yeah, talk to people. The big thing is tell them you love them because so often we don't. And that's the biggest regret people have if something happens. So, yeah, tell your friends you love them. And to everyone in my chat right now, all my regulars, I appreciate you very much. And thank you for being here and supporting me. We're building the trust jar. Wouldn't it be better if a granola or a protein bar in your bag? I mean, yes, sure. But I'm just like, as long as you have something in your bag. I think they were just saying apples because apples are also cheap. So like really good as like a, but yeah, find something that's good and just put it in your bag. Why not? Some carry a harmonica in their bag. You can't eat a harmonica. I mean, I guess you could. Once. Yeah, joke didn't work as well, but you guys know what I was going for there, so that's fine. I do like to point out 401 games. Board games actually have like, me and board games have an interesting history in Toronto. Maybe one day I'll do the board game tour. So over here, there was a season where I dated someone who I was madly in love with. I've had a bad habit of like, when it comes to love, I fall very easily. And I've realized now that a part of that is actually growing up in a church where I just taught to have an open heart and taught to have, and I thought other people did too. And you quickly realize that just like, nope, there's a lot of jerks out there. But yeah, he actually lived in this building right over here. He lived downstairs. So it was a nice basement apartment. And it wasn't a great relationship, shall we say. Because I remember I would bring him treats. I would be like, hey, let's hang out. And just kind of, he kept me on a leash. And I was always never good enough, right? There was always something wrong. There was always something about me that made it so that he couldn't date me. But when my friend came down, the one who peed on the statue, him and my friend met up. And I had told my ex that this is the man I'm interested in. I would love to get you to meet him because, feels. And I'm enjoying this. And they met, and then they hit it off, and then they started dating right away. And then the guy I was dating or trying to date had a day where he essentially, I had forgotten about this story, but oh my God. Started dating my ex and then essentially treated me like garbage and said, what's wrong with you? You were so emotional that day after I had come over and after I was drunk and I was crying and I was just like, I've never felt worse about an experience in my entire life. And he was just like, oh, well, you shouldn't have like thrown all your emotions on me and it made me very uncomfortable and you made everyone else uncomfortable and I don't know what's wrong with you. And yeah, he, that was how that ended. But then fast forward 2 years, they had a falling out because the guy who I had wanted to see accused my ex of something heinous. And I don't know what happened there, But I do know that it was a big, messy situation. And at that point, I was glad they were both out of my life. So, yeah, I introduced them. Ooh, gosh, that's karma right there. That's like, mind you, everyone lost in that situation. So I don't know whose bad karma was getting balanced out there, but I'm willing to bet it was both of them. So, you know, ah well. Now it was a quite a nasty situation, but I'll see them around every now and then. They both seem very happy, both in happy, healthy relationships. And I think the key there is just don't introduce your ex to the person you want to date. I feel like that's a nice, healthy way to go about it. Oh, I'd forgotten about that story. Goodness gracious, that like defined so much of a year or two, because that one hurt. That one hurt a lot. But my goodness, oof. So the area where you're coming out over is a. Oh, I'm over a street. I moved over a street. Uh, it's a place called the Duke of Granby, and it used to be called the Barn. And the Barn was another bar, but it wasn't as popular as Cruise and Tangos. But it still had like 3 floors of dancing, and like the top floor was lesbians, the middle floor was like not reggae, like Latin and jazz, and then uh, the bottom floor was just like dancey good times bar, whatever. So the further up you get, it was still a lot of fun, but yeah, it was quite the experience. And are people feeling festive downtown? Hard to tell. Neutral. I mean, I'd say it's neutral right now. As I said, I like to tell people Christmas for me starts on December 5th. But yeah, I think if people want to get into the Christmas spirit early, I think that's wonderful. But yeah, that's karma for you. It's karma for them. You know what? It's karma for all of us. I wore my heart on my sleeve. I did silly, stupid things as a young person, and I got what I asked for, I guess. But at the same time, I never had to deal with them again. So, in a way, it's a blessing. Actually, that's not true. When he was having a hard time, my ex, when he was having a hard time, I did actually go and help him out because the experiences didn't quite line up. But I still don't know entirely what happened. I don't know. They both got very hurt. And I'm just like, well, part of the reason for me staying single, I find it hard to meet people, females, who share the same values, vision, and lifestyle. You know what? Nothing wrong with being single. Just when I always say, nothing wrong with being single, just be yourself. Be the best version of yourself, and if you're meant to be with someone, it'll happen. If you're not meant to be with someone, you don't need to force it. But yeah, so this was the Barnes. Then it reopened as Le Marquis de Granby. The Marquis of Granby. But yeah, they really tried to make a go of it as a pub. But it didn't quite work. It wasn't the same. Magic was lost. But big city dating is hard. It is. So the reason why I'm actually walking down this part of Church Street is because the first time I came to Toronto by myself, it was in 2006. And in 2006, I was still very much still closeted. I was living in North Bay. Well, I wasn't really closeted. I wasn't out to my parents fully officially, but they knew. I had done a lot of soul searching during that time. I was still Christian. I hadn't quite gone to the conversion therapy values yet. But one of my friends in my theater program, we came down to Toronto as a part of something called Rep 21, which was a theater program started by my college where we were going to come to Toronto and we were going to present our North Bay theater shows as professional theater in Toronto. And so one of the things my friend Rodney did was that he actually walked me up. He was just like, oh, I'm going to take you to the village for the first time. And I was so excited. I got to be able to actually explore. I wanted to explore the city and find out what was happening there. And the first time We did. We accidentally missed the stop that we were going for. So we were riding around the subway. And as we were riding around, I just had this panic attack. And I was just like, I can't do this. I'm compromising my faith. I'm compromising my ability to do like good things. I don't feel good. I feel like I'm scared. I don't want to. I chickened out. And I got to about here in the walk. And the village is like right up there. Not far at all. But yeah. And during that time, I just remember I had this whole big freak out. And I chickened out. I went home. I went back to Pivey's, who is my godmother, who lives out in the East End. West End? West End. And I went over to hers, and I was so scared. But the next day, or 2 days later, I built up my courage, and I went to Church Street for the first time, and I got to see how it is to be queer in Toronto. And it was wonderful. It was a great experience. And I was very, very proud of myself, but I've never looked back since. So it's a shame seeing buildings boarded up and looking decrepit. Yeah. 30 kilometers per hour on Church Street, are they for real? I mean, to be fair, it's Toronto City driving is not I don't know anyone who would choose to drive in Toronto. Like, it's just kind of silly. At this point, it's so expensive to park anywhere. It's so slow. There's so much traffic. Like, there's very little reason to go around Toronto in a car, you know? Muy frio. Hello, Manuel. Manuel? Well, hello. Wonderful to have you today. Welcome to the stream. Ma'am, this over here is TMU. It used to be called Ryerson, and this was the school I wanted to go to. It had one of the most highly sought after theater programs, and it was the one that I wanted to get in. I was determined. I thought I could do it, and I couldn't. I was not even close. I remember coming to Toronto several times for different events and being really impressed with the city. I knew someday I would be living there, always had a good time. And then when the time came, what happened when the time came, Carl? What happened? I must know. Also, still some beautiful foliage. One thing I was always impressed by Toronto downtown is that once you get outside of like the downtown square, like there is actually a lot of green around, and they have done a good job of preserving a lot of the tree life, especially once you get to the valley, especially once you get to like all of the different parks that they have around. You get some really beautiful spaces, and you get some really beautiful, like even just the variations in the color on the leaves over here. It's quite nice. Something that you don't experience very often, but I mean, perfect time of year for just the bright, beautiful colors. Yale School of Drama, best theater program. I believe it. I didn't even, like, here's the thing. I didn't even think about going anywhere other than Canada because I knew I wasn't good enough for that. But I was just like, if I'm just in Canada, if I'm just here, I can enjoy it. So, all right, so this building here, this is actually like a place for homeless youth. And when I first moved to Toronto, I started dating someone, and he had been kicked out of his apartment. He had been kicked out of his home, and so every night I would have to come walk over and drop him off here, and then be able to explore a little. And I'd come back and I'd drop him off here, and then we'd go around and explore a little. But yeah, it was interesting to date someone who was in that situation. But then he did find a place to live, and we did connect outside. And then when we did, the second he got his place, he got bed bugs. So we literally had to just take all of his stuff and put it into bags and tie them up and do all of that drama. But, oh man. He had a rough year or two when we started dating. But actually, I was dating him up until I started dating alcoholic Cam H guy. So, yeah. Y'all are finding out a lot about stuff. Did they have a curfew? They did. So that's why he had to be there at a certain time. But we still got like most of the day together. He would come by my place, which, to be fair, knowing about the bed bugs thing now, probably wasn't the smartest idea. But, you know, it was still a fairly good relationship. It was still really nice. We just lost contact and stopped talking, but essentially once I started, this was back before the day where I would like, I couldn't date more than one person. That was scandalous. How dare I? But alcohol cam H guy. I mean, everyone's gonna have a nickname after a while, but yeah, I need to come up with a better code name for him because if anyone ever finds out who he was, I would be mortified that that's how I've been referring to him. Because he's turned on over a new leaf. He's like, he's new real estate guy. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on here, but if no one's going, I'm going. IKEA still feels weird having an IKEA downtown. I'll be fair, it is weird. It is quite weird. But it's only weird because it doesn't have a showroom. Once you realize it doesn't have a showroom, everything becomes a little bit more nice. But all right, I do have a more recent story. So let me go over into the middle here because oh, that's a beautiful view. Even just how that's set up. That's a nice composition right there. I like when buildings look like they could have been in Batman the Animated Series. That always makes me happy. IKEA commercials are funny. I'll always remember IKEA's lamp commercial. That, I think, is probably one of the best commercials of all time. Where it's just like the story about this old lamp that gets thrown out. And at the end, you see this Norwegian guy come by, or Finnish? Swedish guy. Swedish. What am I thinking? Sweden. Comes out, he's just like, some of you might feel bad for this lamp, but you shouldn't. The lamp has no feelings and the new one is better. I was just like, that's hilarious. Good on you. So over here is the Planet Fitness. This is where I go to gym. Although, to be fair, I haven't been going to the gym for the past month or so because I've literally been walking at least for like 5 or 10 kilometers every day. And it's just kind of become, I don't really need to go there. But yeah, I still should. I still need to get to the gym more often, especially for like upper body and weight stuff. But, you know, I've always just loved this intersection, this little, not patio, what's it called? Plaza, this plaza. I just think it's really well done. But I will say, one of Joel's friends used to live in this building here and literally started, anyways, earlier this year, there was a party and everyone in the friend group was invited except for me. So I reached out to him one day and I was just like, hey, just so you know, can we like talk about why you invited literally everyone in the friend circle except for me? And he wrote back being like, well, you make other people uncomfortable and I didn't want you there and I don't like you. I was just like, oh, well, that was odd. That was super hurtful. And yeah, if people want me to show the receipts, I'm actually kind of making it nicer than it was in the message I got back. But yeah, to this day, hasn't apologized, hasn't made any notice of it. We have seen each other multiple times and I've tried to be cordial. And I'm just 90% sure that he is possibly one of the worst humans I know. So, you know, apart from that, it's all good. He's pretty much killed any chance of us being friends in the future and just like, wow, that is a choice. I'm glad that you are in your 30s and have such an abundance of friends you can rely on forever, that you are willing to ostracize one of them in such a cruel and hurtful way that could potentially take out, I will admit, that message left me in a daze, but I'm just like, did it absolutely damage my relationship with my partner? Yes, because he was put in an awkward place and like they don't see each other as much anymore. They're actually supposed to see each other tomorrow after my book launch. By the way, if you're free tomorrow at 5 p.m., Eastern Standard Time. Y'all should come join on the stream for my book launch. It's happening at Pegasus on Church. I am launching technically one book, but also soft launching my other book. So also, just if anyone wants my books, let me know and I could probably just send them to you. I'd rather get them read and reviewed. Una phrase fragmentada and 666, what? Pegasus on Church. It is tomorrow, Saturday, the 15th, at 6 p.m. Oh, I think someone's getting blocked. Come on, Nightbot, do your thing. But yeah, it is I am doing it with my friend Christian, who is an exceptional writer. He is probably one of the best writers I know. His books are very clever and well done, and like extremely sexual. So like, that is one thing that he does better than I do. And you can take that in any context you will. But yeah, when I write books, I have a good time. I love writing romance and cutesiness, and he's more just like hardcore, rough, raw screwing. So just like, good for you. Good for you. Synopsis of your book. Okay. A barista finds out he is a witch when he gets a foul-mouthed seagull familiar named Teddy, and he essentially infuses coffee drinks he's a barista. He infuses his coffee drinks with magic, and then makes things happen. And he accidentally makes a witch hunter pastor fall in love with him. So, yeah, it is probably my most spicy of books so far, but also saucy and fun. I had a small gathering, invited a little crowd over. I did not know two people who were invited for feuding, who invited were feuding. So when person B showed up, person A left and caused a stink. Soured the evening. It can be hard. I'm not gonna lie, something like that, something similar to that happened when my partner, for like the first day of summer, for the first day of beach day, invited us both to the beach, where we would be for the entire day. Because when you go to the beach on the island, like, you're there for the entire day. And he kind of sprung it on me as we were like heading there, and I'd already had all the stuff and was ready to go, and I was super excited. He's just like, oh yeah, I was just like, who's gonna be there? And he's just like, this person, and also what's a good name I can call him? We'll say Benny. He's just like, Benny's gonna be there. And I was just like, what? He's like, yeah, Benny's gonna be there. And he had hoped that me and him would like bury the hatchet, and instead Benny still acts like nothing is wrong, despite the fact that he has caused quite a bit of hardship and stress in my life for the past couple months, and still acts like everything is fine and had no impact whatsoever. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of Benny right now, we'll say. But yeah, he thought we would be all fine and kiki and drink and laugh together. And I got there and I saw him and I was deeply upset. So I moved over to another space where I was outside of the point where we were close, but not like matching or touching or anything like that. But yeah, literally got to the point where he would just acted like nothing was wrong. And I was crying because I was so upset that this whole thing had happened. And then just like, if you can be so callous and cold that the person you hurt is like right beside you and unable to even look at you in the eye, like, that's a problem and you are not a good person. Anyways, beach sand makes burying things easier. How about a body? Anyways, that's enough about Benny. Truth be told, I'm kind of over the situation. I'm just like, if my partner wants to keep them in their life, I'm not going to stop them, but I can't say that it's done wonders for their relationship or their friendship. Things are hard all over right now. Why would you like go out of your way to isolate someone who could be a friend? Questions, 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 questions. So we are coming up to a place. Yeah, I will say there is something nice about just like, if there was ever a perfect place where we could have just buried the hatchet, it was probably that day on the beach. And it got to the point where like I'd had a few drinks. I was, we'll say I was sober enough, but yeah, it got to the point where I was having a good time. I was just like, if he came over and apologized, that'd be fine. And he did. At this point, he's had how many months to do the right thing and hasn't done it. So I'm just kind of at the point now where I'm just like, you know what? I recognize you're never going to do it. And cool. At this point, all you're doing is hurting yourself. So at least that's how I look at it. I try not to be a drama queen, but sometimes you just can't help it. All right, when I left Spielhaus, I remember I reached out to the people at Hale Coffee, and they recommended me as an assistant manager for this place right here. It's called Coffee Island. And to their credit, they actually have some of the best drip coffee I've ever had. Very tasty, very rich, very full. The flavors are really nice. So like the coffee itself is exceptionally done. But I will say, there was someone who, the manager who worked there, was possibly the worst human I've met. And like, I kind of hated them. And it became obvious very quickly that we would not get along. She treated me like I've been doing coffee for over a decade. And she was treating me like I had never pulled a single shot of espresso before. And I was just like, I get that you have certain standards you want things done to, but also like, you are treating me like I am an idiot. And I very clearly know what I'm doing. So I was upset by the experience. She was not happy with me as a human. And I essentially just said, after 4 days of working there, I was just like, I can't come in. I can't do this anymore. And so I left, and they never paid me. Despite the fact I worked there for like 4 or 5 days, never paid me. I wonder if I could go there and get my money from them. It's probably too late now. It's been literally like over 8 years, but yeah. Can honestly say, the coffee was great. I don't think I would ever return, but I almost never walk on Bay Street south of Charles. To be fair, it's not a very interesting street, but like from a distance, the structures are cool. It's got a good a good area to it. I remember that one of these buildings, I can't remember which one. It was one of the ones up here. My dad pointed out to me. Hello, Zach. Welcome. But my father, funny enough, for a brief period after high school in college, he was also a tour guide. And he actually was giving a tour for a high school bunch of students when he met my mom. And years later, he went off to college. He went to Oxford and did his law degree and did very well for himself. And what happened, never paid you. If you went right away to the Labor Relations Board, you could probably have got them to fork over your pay. I definitely could have. But at that point, I was just like, you know what? Is this worth it? I mean, at the time, it didn't seem like it was, but it probably definitely was. My most favorite place that I would love to live on Bisbee Street. Some of the condos further north are exceptionally and affordable, have very low maintenance fees, and you do need some stuff. Oh, that's interesting. That's good to know. But I will say that building up there, that's the brown brick building with the greenish turquoise windows. So that is apparently where my grandmother used to live. And my grandmother at the time, this is my mother's mother. She lived with her partner, Jackie, and they apparently were living there. And my father, one day while he was walking downtown Toronto home from work, ran into her, and there's some really good burritos at Rico Burrito at Bay and Charles. Ooh, good to know. Patrick, I sense a burrito date, and I am excited for that one. I love burritos. I haven't had good burritos in forever. Oh my gosh, we're totally doing that if you want to. We don't have to, but yeah, that was where my grandmother was living. And then one day while my dad was out and about, he ran into her, and he was just like, "So how's the family? How's your daughter?" And she was just like, "Oh, well, you should reach out and give her a call." And then he did, and now I exist as a human. So that all happened because my grandmother lived there. And just like if she didn't live there, like it's so funny. Like the littlest things can create the biggest reactions that kind of go down the line. So because my dad randomly was a tour guide and he randomly gave this girl a tour years and years ago, and then he randomly ran into her mother one day while walking downtown Toronto. Do all things happen for a reason? I don't know. But all things happen, and one thing leads to another. Oh, I'm so excited. Let me know when you want to do burritos. We'll absolutely do burritos. Long story short, life is funny. So just like I'm talking about my history in Toronto, it seems appropriate that we talk about the history of theoretically how I came to exist as a human. But I always think it's interesting because like even this plaza over here, I remember I was walking down the street with my friend Phil one day, and he was just like, "Do you know why this plaza's here?" And I'm just like, "I have no idea." He's like, "This plaza's here because Toronto instituted a law that required any new building built after the 70s and 80s to require a place of public gathering or a place of public art or a feature of public art to enhance the culture of Toronto." And as such, they built this area here as the plaza. And because he said that, I locked that information away. And that's been such a helpful tip for me, specifically as a tour guide, that I can actually share with people and actually point out and be like, this is where this happened. This is why this exists. And this is where this goes. But yeah, Baldwin Village was where I once located in Toronto. Wonderful area. It is a beautiful area for sure. Toronto actually has a lot of really nice areas. I mean, and Parkdale. So many great options. So this is the Firkin Bay. Of all the Firkins, for some reason, this is the one that Eddie seems to like the most. I don't understand it myself, but, you know, we don't judge Eddie too harshly. That's a lie, we do. But, you know, we still love him. Yeah, this building right up here. And if you look at the bricks, there is a good chance that they're brickwork bricks. The variation in color with the red bricks, yeah, that's some good quality brickwork bricklaying. Baldwin Village is a hidden gem. It really is. Actually, would people be interested if I did like a deep dive in a specific area? Like if I was to run, one of the places I wanted to do specifically, oh, I've never actually been in here. This is nice. One of the places I really like to go would be to go to Jane and Bloor and like walk that area. Because when I lived in Toronto, I lived in a place called 37 Brule Crescent. And for years, that was how I actually knew things. But, huh, what a cool little space. But yeah, that was where I lived. If you're going up past Charles Bay Street Video, one of the last video rental shops anywhere, yes. I think they've even lasted longer than Queen Street Video. But you know what's funny? They held on just long enough that I feel like that's going to start to come back again. And people are just going to have DVD players that you can go in and just rent stuff from. Actually, you know what would be interesting? Is if you actually just had... If you could make a video rental service again, but instead of going in to like get discs, if they just put them on flash drives, that would be so much easier. And you could just go in and like have an old-fashioned rental service again. Because the thing that's been missing with this whole digital revolution is that they have now made it almost impossible to get movie recommendations. So you don't actually hear about anything that is like, oh, this new movie's come out. You can go, like, you only hear it from friends. You only hear it from friends and advertisements. And advertisements, for the large part, don't work anymore. We're all so immune because we just see so many ads all the time. We are inundated all the time. But like when I worked at Blockbuster, the thing is, people would constantly be coming up to us and be like, what do you recommend? What's good in this genre? What's this? An expiring flash drive. Yeah. Like, I don't know if it could work, but if it could, that would actually be like, I'd be curious to find out about that little piece. I don't know if it's possible, but the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, no, it doesn't sound like it would be possible. But there might be something there. So just like the thing that most people like about going into a store is you can talk to people and get recommendations. Like Amazon can't tell you how to set up a fish tank, but if you go into a fish store, they are obviously there because they have the knowledge and they know how to do it. So you're paying a little extra, sure, but at the same time, you're not having to, like, the time you save is crazy. I watch movie trailers on YouTube and then read reviews. Yeah, but see, here's the thing. How many people go to you to ask you what you've seen, right? Up P40 radio hits list no longer. Missed that too. Oh, there it is. We have the Bay Street video open till midnight. I will always remember, where is it? Right over here. Indigo. So there was the Christmas of pandemic, right? And up to this point, I was married to someone. And during this time, obviously, pandemic was hard on a lot of people. But over Christmas 2020, I lost my grandmother. Oh, today! Today, oh my God, it's the 5th anniversary of my grandmother's death. Huh. Sorry, folks. I just had a little bit of a brain freeze there because I forgot that little fact. But yeah, my grandmother died, and then about a week later, his cousin overdosed, and he was the one who actually went in and found the body, so he was very scarred. And then we went to the funeral, and then the mother of the person was coming from Germany, and she brought us COVID. So we got COVID for Christmas, and he lost all sense of taste and smell and everything. And then he had to go get tested at the hospital. And then I had to go get tested by the hospital, and they labeled me as negative. But then the next day, I lost my sense of taste and smell. So I had COVID, but someone had to take care of the dog. So because my test had come back negative, I was the one who theoretically had to go out and take care of things, even despite the fact that I felt like crap. And that was I wasn't able to sleep in the room because I was negative, even though I clearly had COVID. And literally, I slept on my dog's bed because it was more comfortable than our couch at the time. And I was miserable. It was awful. And I remember that during that Christmas season, I came down to this Indigo and just standing outside in the cold, waiting for them to call my number because I had got him this book. I was very proud of it. And then when I was there, I actually managed to do this whole thing where I was, like, he had mentioned this book about, like, life happy something. It turns out it was like a workbook to work through, like, your something. It was something to do with working through your life experiences, and like he had said he wanted it, so I got it. I had to go out of my way to get it from him for Christmas. So when I was there, I just remember that Christmas, I don't even think he got me anything. If he did, it was so inconsequential, it doesn't even matter anymore. But I just remember that Christmas, I had to be the one to walk the dog. And then I had to work for Shopify And then I worked for Shopify all day. I walked the dog again. And then I had to make dinner. And I made these veggie balls. And he got so mad at me because I didn't make a special dinner. And I was furious at that point. I left. I remember just walking around the annex in the snow because that year it had snow. No, it didn't even snow that year. Just in the cold. It was just cold and miserable. I think it was actually raining. And just walking around, not even walking my dog, but just walking around and just crying because that was, God, that Christmas sucked. But I don't know if you saw, but a couple of weeks ago, I did go up to Mount Pleasant, to the cemetery. And after much hunting, I did find my grandmother. And I got to say hello to her and to have a good little catch up. But actually knowing that it's, oof, wow, now I'm like weirdly emotional. Um, oof, knowing that it's like her death anniversary, I think today might be the day that I convince Joel that we are going to get Swiss Chalet, because every Sunday when we were growing up in North Bay, uh, after church, we would all go to Swiss Chalet, and we would have a quarter chicken white with fries dinner. So maybe that's what we'll do tonight. Maybe that'll be a nice way to honor her memory. Yeah. Oh God, I didn't even think that it was today. But yeah, absolutely is today. Whew. So that's the story of my worst Christmas. Uncomfortable laughter makes everything better. I watched the movie Weapons the other night, an excellent horror movie. Weapons was good. Weapons was really good. My only complaint with Weapons is that it does the bury your gays trope. And I was just like, you have an interesting interracial queer couple, and they're the ones you treat as disposable. Oh, I hate it when that happens. But like, it was well done. The movie itself was really cool. And apparently the woman who plays Gladys has been nominated for something, and I'm just like, good for her. She absolutely deserves it. It was such an interesting performance. So, yeah. Well, now that I've traumatized all of you with my Christmas 2020 story, yeah, that was a rough season. But now we're in bigger, better places. Oh, I've actually never noticed that. But the way that the glass is embedded into the building like that, that's really cool. You don't see finishes like that very often anymore. I remember the space over here. It used to be like a little walk-in mall. It's still kind of there. But what made it special is they had one store in the middle that sold secondhand video games, and it was really nice. But fortunately, it doesn't exist anymore. Megaconda Tower consists with the U of T housing. Oh, okay. The glass embedded building used to be the backstage theater. Oh, that's really cool. Tattoo shop, Little Pond Studio. Okay. Oh, I will say there's 7. If you ever get the chance to go there, it is actually a lovely restaurant. It was the back of the Uptown. Huh. Also, I just kind of love that one building that's like half red, half black. Like, it's a bold choice, but it actually works pretty well. So, ah. It's a shame the uptown could not be saved and restored. It's interesting kind of to see which theaters are the ones that are actually like well remembered, because the thing to remember is that they're all competing with the brass rail, and somehow the brass rail is still here. But, you know, there's no accounting for taste. Hence why right beside it is a Chick-fil-A. Ugh. They get enough advertisement though. There's the CAA theater down here, which I believe used to be the Pantages. Like, this is where the Pantages was, right? You'll have to remind me if I'm correct there, but I believe that was the one where Phantom was for years and years. If it's not this one, then it would be the one down. Like, would it be down where the Ed Mervish is now? Can't quite remember, but brass rail is big business. It's big biddies, that's for sure. I'm just kidding. But yeah, they make good money there. Where's the snow? Yeah, Toronto doesn't have any snow left. It was all killed off. I'm actually not even wearing I'm not wearing gloves today. Not wearing my mittens. Yeah. It's just kind of turned into a lovely casual day. Pantages was by the Eaton Center. Okay, so I think that would be the Ed Mervish now then. This was the New Yorker. Okay. Pancake should have been Pantages. Fair enough. I figured that one out. Well, for those who don't know, actually, Patrick, this is convenient because I was literally going to text you in like a half hour. Tomorrow at 6, I am doing the book launch over at Pegasus on Church. If anyone is able to make it out for it, we'd love to have you. Also, if you are here for the first time, please like and subscribe. It helps us grow the channel. And the more we grow, the better it gets for everybody, especially me. So, thank you for helping. Pancakes does sound delicious, though. I think we should make the Pancakes Theater. It'll be like flapjacks at the opera. I was trying to think of like... I mean, you could do Phantom of the Opera cake, but that's a very specific knowledge. What time? 6 p.m. It is at 6 p.m. Yes. Thank you, Stephen. He's on it. We are going to be streaming it live, but then you'll miss the chance to actually buy one and be there. Oh. So the reason I came down the street was when I did leave my ex. These parks here, there's 3 of them that connected up, goes all the way up there. But I used to live at Isabella and Church when I first moved out. And as such, I ended up getting a lot of chances to be able to walk my dog through here while I still had access to her. But she was a firecracker of a dog. Certainly not the easiest to love, which, makes you feel weird when everyone's just like, I hate your dog. I'm just like, yeah, fair. But what was nice is that for about a week, we would be able to walk her through here. But then after literally getting to walk her through this area once or twice, they shut down all 3 of these parks, one after the other. And essentially to create all of these spaces that they could renovate and turn into just fancy, exciting spots. So yeah, if you're ever getting the chance to check them out, it can be a good place to come to. But also, if you avoid it for certain reasons, that's also totally fair. Sometimes I actually listen. We appreciate that about you. But I'm just like, you don't have to pretend with me. We know. We're good. We're all friends here. Oh, I'm always just happy to have you around. All right. Well, I'm going to head off to a coffee shop But I want to stop by this street in particular because at the end, this is the space where I moved to. Actually, no, I'm up at Charles now. Oh my gosh, I was on the street I was trying to be at. Well, I will say, for those who know Ready Eddie, this is where Ready Eddie used to live. Couldn't tell you where exactly, but I know it was in this area somewhere, one of these buildings. And I remember he would come out, and because I lived around the corner, we would go for a walk with Coda together. And it was really cute because Coda's such a little ball of energy. We're all fans of Coda in this household. Actually, come to think of it, I don't think we've done a walk with Coda yet. We've done a walk with Austin. That's always a good time. Oh, by the way, folks, I don't know if you care to know this, but today we officially passed 2,000 watch hours, meaning that we are only 1,000 watch hours away from being able to flip the switch and actually officially monetize, which is huge. We are also about 50, I think we're 63 people short of the first goal of 500. So for anyone who has been, Coda Austins, are these people or pets? It is the dogs of Friends. We abduct the dogs. Not abduct. Abduct is a strong word. We take them for ourselves. But yeah, if you're able to help the channel out, we appreciate it. And it feels really good to actually be so close to the goal. I initially wanted to, I kind of did everything I could to try to hit it before the 15th, because in hopes that I could essentially monetize by the time the Santa Claus parade came around. Well, that's not going to happen. But at the same time, we're having a good time. And I love having you. I love being able to walk every day. Gives me something to do and helps me spread the word about touring. But 444, yay! So we're only like 56 away from, oh, that's amazing. Thank you, everybody. It's great to have you. I will say, one year, when I was dating Jimmy took me here for my birthday, and it is such a unique experience. It is lovely, and if you get a chance to actually go in there sometime, it is great. It is a black restaurant, meaning that everything inside is blacked out. You can't see, you cannot even see your hand in front of your face. It is so dark, and the people who work there are blind. And what they do is they're essentially able to navigate around the tables and everything. But yeah, it's incredible meals. The food was excellent. You ordered before you get in because obviously there's no way you could do that while you were in there. But yeah, a truly exceptionally cool experience. And the food was great. The food was absolutely great. I would do a stream from in there, but how would anyone know? So the reason I came this specific direction was because I want to show you in front of us. There is the building with the... I would have to bring a flashlight, and I would be sure it'd be a no-no. Yeah, they make it so that it has to be pure dark all the time. But the reason I'm coming up to this place right here, this is 608 Church. This was where I lived up until about 2 years ago. When I moved out of my ex-husband's place, this was the space I moved into, and it cost me $2,000 a month for a studio without a balcony, without a dishwasher. It didn't even have a rod in the closet to hang my clothes, but it was a safe space, and it allowed me to live by myself in a new place, which is pretty much all you can ask for. So for what it's worth, you were expensive house, but at the end of the day, you were worth it because you know, you made life easier for a great deal of time. Well, on that note, that's it for me today. Thank you for joining me on a personal walk of my history of Toronto. I hope to have more of these soon, and I'm always happy to take anyone for a walk with me if you want to. If you want to hire me for a walk, you can find the links in the description to my Viator and my TripAdvisor. And hopefully, we'll be able to see much more of you folks very, very soon. But thanks for coming by. It's good to have you, and we'll see you very soon.